Hey, and welcome to this week's Vercel Community Live session. I'm Amy. I'm on the community team here at Vercel, and I'm going to be one of your moderators for today's session. If you don't see the chat, make sure that you're signed in and click going on the event details, or if you're tuning in from another site, you can join us at community.vercel.com/events and find the event listing and then click going to join the chat. Jacob.
Hey everyone. So at the end of the session, we're going to do a little bit of Q&A, so feel free to ask questions along the way in the chat. And if you're going to hang out in the chat, just remember to follow our code of conduct and keep things respectful. I'd like to introduce our guest here, Lazar Nikolov, a senior DX engineer at Sentry.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me.
Hey Lazar. What do you have to show for us today?
Oh, we got some cool stuff. We got some bug fixing to do. We got some native integrations to look at. And we also have some AI toys to play with.
That sounds super cool. Do you want to kick off the demo?
Yes, sure. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm a DX engineer at Sentry. And for those of you who don't know what Sentry is, I'm going to give you like a really quick 2-minute demo. It is an APM, an application monitoring software. That means it takes care of your crashes. You get a notification every time something bad happens on your site, and also performance. It is considered not bad by 4 million developers, which is an important metric. And here are some of the logos that ended up using us. So yeah, if you're in the tech, you pretty much know all of them. All right, so we got 4 features that are like at the core of our product. So we have error monitoring. That's our roots. That's how we started. As I mentioned, like every time something bad happens on your site, you get notification, but you also have all of the debugging data that you need in order to fix it. We got tracing, which is a really cool debugging technique, and also a cool technique to identify performance bottlenecks. We got session replay, which I'm going to show you today, and it's a session recorder, which is not a video, but you'll see. It's a session recorder that lets you see what the user saw on their screen when a specific error happened. And we also have code coverage and a whole bunch of testing features. But yeah, today I want to show you how you can get started using Sentry using the native Vercel integration. Okay, so I have a demo project here, errorfixworkshop.vercel.app. It's already deployed. And I want to get Sentry into this application, but I don't want to leave Vercel. So I'm going to go into integrations. I'm going to click on Browse Marketplace and search for Sentry. There we go. This is the Sentry native integration. It basically creates a Sentry org for you. It creates a Sentry project for you. It sets up all of the environment variables that you need for your project to work, and it even takes care of billing for you. So you end up paying for Sentry through Vercel, which is pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna hit install in this one. And how should we call this? Let's go with, I don't know, Vercel Sesh, because we are in the Vercel community sessions. The data store, we have US and EU. For example, if you are in Europe and you wanna, and you need to adhere to like GDPR and stuff like that, you can pick EU as your data storage, but we'll just pick US for now. And here are the plans. I'm just gonna select the free developer one, which is pretty generous, as you can see. You can get started with the free one, and I'll just go continue. This will create an actual Sentry organization for us, and we'll be able to access it later. There we go. Sorry. We're gonna pick Next.js for our first Sentry project. And Sentry Amber Lamp. Yeah, it's great. Let's go for it. There we go. That was fast. And now I'm actually ready to implement Sentry, because I have a Sentry org, I have a Sentry project, and I get to link and connect that Sentry project with my Vercel project. So I'm just gonna hit connect here. There we go. Everything is already set up, and I'm just gonna install the SDK in my app now. So here's the app. I'm just gonna hit the wizard. The wizard knows everything, so it authenticates with my Sentry account, the newly created one, automatically, and it installs the SDK and everything for us. All right, we got some questions. Do we want to route Sentry requests in the browser? This is going to create a proxy endpoint and send all of the measurements through that proxy endpoint. And of course, yes, if it will increase your server load and hosting bill because we are hitting the app endpoint instead of sending requests directly to Sentry. But if we do send requests directly to Sentry, some ad blockers can actually cancel them or decline those requests. I'm going to hit yes, but depending on your situation, it's a yes or no. Do we want to enable tracing? I did briefly mention about tracing. I didn't tell you that tracing is central in Sentry. So everything that happens is tied to a trace. Errors are tied to a trace. Session replay is tied to a trace. Everything is tied to a trace. And that's how, and I'm going to demo this later, that's how we're able to connect front-end errors with the corresponding back-end errors. Okay, so if something happens on the front end because of a back-end error, instead of just having 2 errors out of the sea of multiple errors, we're actually going to see them connected. All right, so I'm going, yes, definitely I'm going to enable tracing. There's that session replay feature that I mentioned, so I do want that. And do we want an example page? If you're doing this in a new project or your existing project, feel free to create one, but for now I'm just going to say no. And literally that's it. Okay, so I answered these like what, 4 questions, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push directly to GitHub. There we go. I'm going to push directly to GitHub, and this is going to trigger that nice. So we are deploying to Vercel, and we are going to start seeing some data in Sentry. And I'm going to open Sentry and have it ready. Okay, there it is. While this is done, I'm just going to switch over to the Vercel sesh. There's our new organization, and yeah, it has nothing, no data so far, but once this is live, we can go in and yeah, start seeing some data. But all in all, that was the only thing that we needed to do. It was just triggering that wizard, and the wizard took care of everything. In the meantime, I can actually show you what happened. We have the Sentry configs, which basically initialize and configure the Sentry SDK, because there's one for the Edge runtime, there's one for the server or node runtime, and there's one for the browser. So here we can see replay integration is added here into the instrumentation client. The sample rate is set to 1, which is 100% of the traces will be sampled, will be sent and analyzed by Sentry. And there's also the replays sample rate. Cool. So let's check on this. We should be pretty close. As you can see here, Sentry is, or Vercel is basically getting, generating all of these JS maps, and the Sentry build bundler plugin will upload them to Sentry. Because if you know, when crashes happen in production, these crashes are obfuscated, minified. The code that we ship is not the code that we wrote. So if you just look at the raw stack trace of a production error, you're not going to get any details, barely, if any. So doing this process of uploading these source maps to Sentry allows us to open the error, deminify and deobfuscate the error, and actually see where the error is in our source code. So that's why that happens. And we are almost done. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna open the app. There it is. This one includes Sentry already, so I'm gonna hit another refresh. Let's check out some of these featured products. A sleek metal keyboard. Yeah, I'm gonna get 2 magentas and I don't know, 1 silver extra large. And I'm gonna go and I wanna check out. There we go. It asks us to log in. I'm already an admin on this app, so I'm just gonna log in with my admin account. I get to use test payment data, and yeah, we'll just hit checkout. And this is where something happens, because this process button will never actually get available. It's always going to be disabled. And this is what we can see in the browser. An error occurred while processing your payment, and it's here. And as I mentioned, like, this is not the code that we wrote. This is all the production minified code. So this is all being sent to Sentry, and even non-crash issues are being sent to Sentry. For example, some database slow database queries are being automatically instrumented and picked up by Sentry. And even if we have a save button and I keep clicking on it because nothing happens, right? I'm like rage clicking on it as a user. I'm trying to see if anything happens, but nothing happens. That also gets automatically picked up by Sentry. Okay, so that's like an additional layer of debugging data, which is not tied to any crash or a stack trace, but it still indicates that there are some issues with your application that you need to look into. Okay, so let's go back here and hit refresh. Great. What we're gonna see here, here's our project, and this is our front-end insights page. This is the generic one, okay? We built an insights page specific for Next.js project that gives us more information. Here we can see we have some slow HTTP operations, slow resources, the percentiles, transactions per minute, but we know that we are running Next.js, and because we're running Next.js, we do have some extra stuff that we want to resurface as opposed to these metrics. So I'm going to go to the settings, and I'm going to turn on the early adopter feature. If you are creating a Sentry organization, make sure that this is turned on, because if I go back to Insights and hit refresh, we're going to see a different front-end page now, and this is the Next.js specific. Like, this is a special Next.js Insights page because we have page loads now, which is more important than the rest of the stuff. We have some recommended issues, and here's that little error occurred while processing your payment issue that we triggered 2 minutes ago. We have some API latency that tell us what is the like the average NP95 of our API endpoints, the latency. Web Vitals give us an overview of what is wrong with our application. We can see that the LCP is 5.74. That is definitely not good. So we should look into fixing this. And the FCP as well is like 4 seconds, right? So these tell us something. Here's that rage and dead click when I spammed the save button, not add to cart, but save button. So we got that resurfaced here. Slow SSR, as we can see, we have a spike in this case, and that is the page server component of the /product/ID. And we have a table with 3 different data sets, and these are the client pages, API endpoints, and SSR, which give us timing, gives us error rates, and everything that we need to, just to see in what state our application is. Because when we're testing on our high-end MacBooks, on the office internet, everything is well. But as soon as we push the deploy button, and all of the users will get it, they're not gonna be all on MacBooks, on office, on business internet connections. So yeah, that's why we can see the discrepancy in live data. All right, so yeah, we have a special insights page, and this gives you a really nice overview of what is going on in your application. But let's look into the actual error this time. So if we go here, this is the error details page. It gives you a lot. Okay, it gives you like a timeline to see, based on the releases, how many errors happened and how many users the errors affected. We can see some tags here, like it's on the front end. It hasn't been handled. That means it was not caught in a try catch. What is the level? There's the connected trace. And here's that piece of code that I was telling you about. Sentry figured it out that it's in the libstore.ts in the make purchase function on the line 142, right? But if we remember, this is what we saw in the browser. This is basically the source maps in place. So using the source maps, we get to unminify the stack trace into something that is more legible. And we can even connect Git if you want to have a little button that takes us directly to the actual function, the store.ts and the make purchase in this case. But it's not just that. I'll show you. Okay, so just below that we have the session replay, and this is the recording that I mentioned. So here's me clicking around on the mouse and just trying to make a purchase, but nothing happens. Right? So this is what happens at the moment when I try to make a purchase. We can even go into the full replay. And the full replay actually gives us a lot. It gives us the breadcrumbs, which are basically like steps leading up to the error. We have the console, so anything that is outputted into the console, we get to see it here. Even the network tab in the developer tools is captured, but not the data, because PII. Then we have these errors, and we can see here's that error that we saw, but we also have 3 rage clicks, and they are appended with or prepended with a timestamp, so we can click on that timestamp and we get to see all of the rage clicks or dead clicks that happened. Okay, so we know what this page is, even though these are all like obfuscated values, because we don't want to leak any personal identifiable information. Everything is obfuscated, no personal data gets through, although I can unmask certain non-sensitive text, but we know what screen this is. This is the save button, or like save to add to favorites. And this doesn't work. So yeah, even though it didn't crash, we still know that this is another issue that we have in our application. Then we have the trace, and the trace is also really cool because it starts off by, in this case, by navigating to the /checkout page, but it also, in my case, it's not super instrumented, but it also goes on and shows us what happens on the server side, on the backend side of Next.js when the error happened. Okay, yeah, that's a session replay. It's really cool. You can see, especially Next.js users are using session replay because you get to see what happens on the screen and then what happens on the backend, all of the connected errors, and so on. And yeah, we also saw the breadcrumbs, the trace preview, etc. But let's try to actually solve this issue. We know that it's on this /checkout page. We can see it here. We also saw it on the session replay, and we can even see in the breadcrumbs that it's about that it sends a post to this endpoint, and that's when the error happens. But then nothing else is provided. That means that if it's a 500, we know that there's a crash on the server, but we don't have that. So let's go into the API checkout purchase to see what is going on. API checkout purchase. There we go. So in here we have the posts. There's a try catch, and then inside of the catch, we are just outputting the error, but we're not sending it to Sentry. So we were able to capture this one, as you can see, because it's unhandled. Sentry does implement like a catch-all or a top-level catch or error boundary that sends any unhandled errors to Sentry. But in this case, this is a handled one. So we do need to manually send this one. Okay, if I do this and I don't know, send error to Sentry, I'm going to do another deployment. Hopefully it's going to be pretty fast so we don't burn through our time. But yeah, every time, if you're implementing Sentry in your existing project, make sure that every time you have a try catch that you're actually sending the error to Sentry. Otherwise, it's not going to it's not going to go and it's not going to be reported to Sentry. Okay, and because I mentioned that everything is tied to a trace, we're going to see this error right here show up in the trace preview. There's going to be a little window saying there's another error on the same trace, which is potentially linked with this error that we're looking at. So let's see that in action now. Source maps are being uploaded. There's the edge ones, and now we're also going to do the same for the client. I should have prepared some elevator music while we wait. Yeah, we could have done this locally, but I really wanted to show you how things happen in actual productions, like in actual production deployments on Vercel. Okay, but yeah, in the meantime, we're going to be using this later called Seer, and this is our AI feature. And the way that we figured out that it was in the checkout and it was in this page right here and this endpoint, and we saw the session replay, Seer basically does that for us. It does all of the investigation on why the error is happening, but it also opens a PR with a potential fix. And we can work with Seer on it to bring the fix. Usually for like smaller, more straightforward issues, it just works out of the box. And with the PR opens in GitHub, we can just merge it. Okay, right, so we're ready here. I'm gonna go back, refresh, and try to check out again. Okay, at this time, there we go. We saw the crash happen again. And I'm gonna go back to Sentry and go back to issues. It's gonna show up here. We'll see this get updated and actually get pushed at the top. And we'll also see one more error on this screen. And that error is gonna be the new one. There we go. So 23 seconds ago, and there's another one, a new one, also 23 seconds ago, which is admin users cannot purchase. Okay, so this is an authorization issue, but if our Sentry issues feed looks like this, then we probably don't even need Sentry. Usually on apps with actual users, you get a lot of errors, right? So if there's a lot more errors and issues here on this page, you wouldn't know that these two or this one and this one are actually linked. Well, in order to make sure that they are, we will go back to the old error, and if we scroll down, we're going to see one other issue appears in the same trace. And this is that error that happens on the back end. Okay, so we're looking at the error that happened on the front end, but Sentry knows that there's another one that happened on the back end, and they're probably related. And yes, they are, right? So we can do this. We can go into this one, or just like check out the full trace, so we can see what happens at what exact time. But it's better if we have Seer do that for us. As I mentioned, like Seer is the AI companion in Sentry. It is going to consume all of the data we send to Sentry, and it's gonna first figure out what is the issue, figure out how to fix it, and then open a PR for us. So let's give that a go, because usually, or you might have multiple features, and doing this, which it's still faster than not having Sentry, but doing this manual investigation of what happens at what time takes a lot of time, especially if you have 10 or 15 issues that you need to resolve. Well, you can just use Seer in parallel to do all of that for you. So yeah, let's check out Seer. It is a paid one, but because this is our new organization, we get to start a 14-day business trial, and we get to try Seer as well. Okay, we'll try this for free. And now we need to set up GitHub, because as I mentioned, it's going to open a PR in GitHub. So I'm going to go through this flow, and you'll get to see how actually looks like. Here's the GitHub integration inside of Sentry. I'm just gonna add it. It's gonna ask me what is the org. I kept it on my personal one, so I'm just gonna hit install, and we'll give it a second to pull all of the repositories that I have on my account. There we go, public and private. So this looks correct. If I search for error fix workshop, do we get to see that here? Not. Let's do another refresh. There we go. Error fix workshop is the one that we are working in. So I'm just gonna go back to the issue and then configure the repository. So we added the GitHub integration, but we also need to tell Seer that in this Sentry project, this is the GitHub repository that we're working in. So I'm gonna search for error fix workshop. I'm gonna add it, and that's about it. Going back to the actual issue now, I'm gonna hit refresh, and there we go. No more things to do. We can just start Seer. It does give us a little overview, like payment processing failed on the checkout, error originates in store.ts and page.tsx, blah, blah, blah. But this is just like a very surface level. Now it is going to start ingesting all of the data that we send, and it's going to figure it out. And we can even get to close this because this happens in the background. We can come back later, go back to the issues, pick another issue, and trigger Seer in a different issue. So it is going to work in parallel for us. And you can see that Seer has an insights into this issue by this icon here. So you see which ones are ready or not. Okay, let's see what happens. It's simulating a profound thought. The error likely stems from the checkout purchase, a flawed admin user check. This check throws an error when an admin user attempts a purchase. See, it did figure it out. Even though this error doesn't, or this crash doesn't contain that error, it actually went into this one because it is connected to the trace, and it's most likely the cause of this one. So Seer did figure that out, and it's just going to, there we go. All right, so here's a summary. It gives us a little timeline of events. So the user clicks on the pay button, the front-end handle submit function is called, it triggers the make purchase, post to the endpoint, we hit the API checkout purchase on the backend, and the backend checks if the user's email is admin and intentionally throws an error. And there we go. The thrown error is caught by the backend's error handling, logged, captured by Sentry, and the 500 response is returned. And this one receives it and throws a new error with a generic message. So it knows that it's not really descriptive of the situation, and it's not good. And now it's going to figure out automatically, it's going to figure out a solution of how we can better handle this. Whether we show something or whether we prevent something, it is going to find a solution that doesn't break the UX, like we had on the app, like the forever spinning processing button here. Okay, now let's give this one. Actually, we don't need to. It's already done. All right, so I'm gonna tell it to code it up. It is going to return a 403 forbidden instead, and it's gonna handle non-OK API response in the make purchase on the client side. So it is coding up the solution for us, and it is going to open the PR. And when it does that, Vercel's bot kicks in and builds us a sandbox environment that we can immediately check. There we go. I'm gonna tell it to open a draft PR. We can check the code here if we wanted to, but it's, can even go to GitHub and do that and wait for the sandbox deployment. There we go. Here's the repo. Here's Seer. It did provide a good explanation. There's the description in this PR. We have the files changed. This is what's going to happen. Instead of just throwing an error here, we are returning a next response here. Forbidden. Admin users are not allowed. And then back on the client side, instead of rethrowing a generic error, we're actually doing something else here. We're handling the response properly. Okay, let's see now. So Vercel is waiting for the status to be reported, is deploying your application. So yeah, this is, we automatically get sandbox deployment. There we go. Handle admin purchase. So we can check it out. And if we like it, we can just merge it. And we'll see, we'll actually see what Seer has cooked up for us. Almost there. There we go. There's our Vercel comment on the PR. So we can go ahead and check out the preview. Now, because we are in the different URL, the card is not in place, like it's not restored because the card is being kept in a cookie. But I'm just gonna try to check out with something else. Okay, use test payment data. I'm gonna hit pay. Oh, there we go. So now instead of looking at like the forever spinning processing button, we actually see admin users are not allowed to make purchases. And I can be, okay, so I'm gonna log out and log back in with a different account. But this means that the UX is not broken, right? I have an actionable thing to do after seeing this message. So this looks like a good fix to me. I can just like merge this, delete this branch, and then immediately Vercel is going to deploy this on production. That means I can do this, I don't know, I haven't even opened the cursor aside from just adding the Sentry stuff in place. But when this error showed up, I actually fixed it without opening like the IDE. I can technically do this on an iPad, in a train, while going to Vercel's event, which is pretty soon. Yeah. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show you today.
That was awesome. Thank you for showing us all of that.
Yeah, that was super cool. Like, this is my ideal error fixing workflow here. It's like you get all the information in the background and you just click a button and Seer runs through and solves all my problems for me.
Yep.
It's like this. It feels like we're finally in the future.
Right.
All right.
Right. So
go ahead, Jacob. I think you have some questions already. You always do. So you go ahead, Jacob.
Too many. Yeah. So we have a few questions, but so starting with the source maps, like, do we have to upload those to production in order for Sentry to know about them? Because when I tend to work on projects, like we always like to keep source maps private for development, but we don't want to potentially leak source code. And that's always been an issue for any instrumentation or other tools, is we always block the source maps from going into the production environment. So does Sentry require that to be published, or do you have a workaround for that?
No, actually, Sentry just wants you to upload the source maps to Sentry and not necessarily keep them on your server in production. So you can usually all of the bundlers allow you to generate the source maps, but immediately delete them before actually deploying them. And some of the Sentry plugins for the bundlers, and the most recent one was ESBuild that I was working with. For example, ESBuild allows you to, not ESBuild, but the Sentry plugin for ESBuild allows you to automatically delete or anything that ends with .js.map from your build output before actually deploying. So yeah, most if not all of the plugins allow you to do that.
Cool. I think that solves solve that problem outright then. So I did notice that you automatically instrument Next.js. So the moment you hooked it up, all of a sudden we had visibility into navigations that were going on, some RSC stuff. How much other automatic instrumentation is there for, I guess, like Next.js, but also other types of apps? Like, what do you get out of the box with just a Sentry integration before you start wiring up your own code?
Yeah, you get a lot of stuff. For example, if you are using PG, which is Node Postgres, under the hood, or some of the other libraries, we have a list of our supported, for example, database libraries. Those are automatically instrumented for you as well. In my demo right now, I didn't have a traditional database, so it wasn't instrumented automatically, but I get to go in and do some manual instrumentation if I wanted to. But databases are covered. That means it's not just looking at or just like giving you spans that you can look into. We are parsing the SQL. We are looking at how long each query goes for, and we also have a bunch of checks that create issues in your Sentry but are not crashes. So if a particular query goes more than 500 milliseconds or 1 second, you get alerted. There's no crash, it's just slow, but you still get an email saying, we found this database span and it's taking too long. Maybe you should look into it. And also n+1 queries. So like you fetch, you fetch something from the database, and which returns you a list of IDs. And then for every ID, you do separate queries. That's an n+1 query. That's also going to be reported as an issue, and you'll get an email. You have an n+1 in your code base. Go fix it. Because it's a classic performance issue, the n+1s. But yeah, databases.
How do you how do you
Yeah.
hook those integrations up? Like, do you have specific wrappers for like Node PG or the different database drivers, or do you add yourself as a logger to them?
No, they're
I'm
actually
just
automatic.
curious.
Yeah, like
Oh,
the Sentry SDK picks it up, which is
okay,
especially
that's
good
super cool.
for Next.js. Yeah. There's Prisma, but I think you need to enable Prisma. Node Postgres is automatic. There were some MySQL ones that are automatically picked up. You didn't even need to do anything. Like, just run the wizard and you have everything under the box.
That feels like magic.
Yeah. Yeah, databases. Also, caches. So if you're using Redis, it's automatically instrumented for you, and you'll get more details aside from just like the Redis queries. You'll get hit versus miss ratio in your application. So if you see that you get a lot of misses, then you need to, you can go back and see why the cache is not being hit, which you have it in the first place, so you want to hit it.
So with all of that being so automatic, I know, especially like if you're a beginner with monitoring tools like this, it can get a little overwhelming, just the amount of things coming in. Is there any tips you have on like maybe key details that people should focus on first until they get used to using the tools?
Yeah, so Sentry you get the most value out of Sentry, the most data you send to it. As you saw in my demo, I had one error, and I just omitted the other one. I didn't send it, but it wasn't able to give, to show me more. It did show me where the rabbit hole is. It was in the API checkout route. And I can go in and further debug this on my own, but with with tracing enabled, those two errors being linked, that's when you get the most out of Sentry. So it is good that you're sending a lot of data to Sentry, but you can go gradually. As you saw the Next.js specific insights page, that's like a good starting point that you can go into to debug and see the state of your application in production. You get to see the web vitals, how bad or good they are. You get to see how the individual pages are being rendered, slow versus fast, or if you're pulling in some extra resources, the trace will give you that. So yeah, that's what I would say. The Next.js specific insights page is probably your homepage in Sentry.
If you were Like so initially in the demo, you could see the error in the Sentry dashboard, but you weren't passing the exception. You weren't passing the original exception to the Sentry dashboard, and then you fixed that so that you were sending the whole thing, and then you used Seer there. Now Seer had all the information needed in order to identify the issue. What would have happened if you tried to use Seer before that? Would it be able to say there's not enough information here, or would it suggest you to try and submit the exception in order to get more information for further instrumentation? Like, could it help you walk through setting up more monitoring into your application?
Yeah, at this time, I think it's going to just try to come up with fixes with the stuff that it is clear, or it is an understanding that there are actual issues. Like, for example, I don't know, in this demo, I don't know what it would suggest, but it would suggest something for you to fix. Yeah, it's not gonna tell you I don't have the whole trace, because it doesn't know how, like, where this request is going to. Maybe it's going to like third-party APIs. You can't really instrument what is not yours, right? You don't have access to that, so it can't give you like, here's what you need to do, but it's gonna try to use the data that it already has, or like it has locally, and in this case it wasn't with the connected issue, but it's gonna try to come up with something that it thinks that it is a fix.
Okay, is there a way now or in the future where a seer could automatically detect? So the moment it sees the error, then it starts thinking and comes up with a solution, and maybe even submits a PR on its own, so that you come into the error, but also have a potential solution that you can, either review and merge, or just close if it's not the right fix.
Yeah,
Is that
I would
something on the
love to see
roadmap
that.
maybe, or yeah,
That's
that would be
that
super,
sounds like a
super
really cool thing. Yeah.
yeah, like YOLO mode for Sentry for Seer.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, so, sometimes if you have an existing tool in use, particularly if you're using this for your job and somebody told you, hey, we're using this other tool, and now maybe you're looking to switch to Sentry. How well does it work if you're using it with other systems, and how can you avoid duplicate traces and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, if you're sending data to two services,
Mhm.
there's gonna be duplicate data anyways. But
Sure.
in order for, like, when we're talking about cooperation with other tools, we do implement OTel and integrate with OTel. So if the tool that you're using right now is built with OTel or uses OTel, you can actually tap into it and use the existing instrumentation of the older tool, but just switch out the adapter to Sentry so that you can send those events to Sentry instead. So there's that possibility. But yeah, if you're sending I don't know, tool X and Sentry, then you'll have two data
Yeah, that makes
sources.
sense.
Yeah.
All
And I
right,
said it's easy to switch.
I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
So with the Vercel integration, am I able to see if errors that I'm getting in the Sentry dashboard are coming from production or from the different preview environments? So like after I made that first preview, you went in and you tested it out and you got the live error. Would I be able to then see in the Sentry dashboard that came from the preview test, or if that was something happening again in production? Or is there a way to tag your traces so that we might have that info?
Yeah, it is actually automatic. So like in Sentry, you can even see this if you bring my screen up. There is a little environment. There we go. There's a little environment tag here that gives you the Vercel production in this case. So if you have preview environments, it's gonna show up here. And you can even go a bit below to look in the environment a bit better among with the other tags. So yes, there is tagging involved, and this is automatic. and this is being appended by the Vercel integration.
Okay, perfect. Would that show just Vercel preview, or would it give you a different tag for each preview?
I'm not
Essentially,
sure.
say we have a bunch
We
of
should
different.
check, yeah,
Okay.
but it's probably going to be something different than Vercel production. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming on to show us. This is all some super cool stuff we have here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
And it's really cool to see this. So yeah, thank you everyone for participating in the chat and asking some questions here. We have another community session coming up next week on Thursday, June 19th, called Why Design Systems Are at Odds with LLMs. So join that event and come on down to see what we have to show you that time. Until then, let's see you in the community. Have a great day, everyone.